My life with my wife, Anna, has always been like a peaceful painting, plain but warm. Anna is a breathtakingly beautiful woman, and her presence is like the brightest light in my life. She has long, silky, chestnut-colored hair that shimmers in the sunlight like a piece of living silk. It always attracts the attention of those around her when it sways gently. I often can't help reaching out to touch the soft strands when I'm free, to feel the delicate touch on my fingertips. Her eyes are like deep pools, profound and mysterious, as if hiding countless untold stories. The color of her eyes is like the lake in late autumn, which will appear either green or blue under different light. Whenever she stares at me, the tenderness and depth in her eyes can always make me instantly intoxicated, as if the whole world is just the two of us. Her skin is as white as snow, as delicate as a baby's skin. The pale complexion contrasts with her long chestnut hair, highlighting her beauty and uniqueness. Her cheeks often flush with a light red, like the peach blossoms blooming in spring, so delicate and charming. Her figure is even more enchanting, with a waist that is easy to hold and lines that are as beautiful as a carefully crafted work of art. Every movement she makes seems to carry an innate grace and charm that makes people fall for her. When she puts on a form-fitting dress, her curvy figure is even more on display, attracting the attention of everyone around. It was a sunny afternoon when we happened to pass by a place called Phantom Theater. The theater looked a bit old-fashioned, with the signs on the walls covered in traces of time. The signboard at the entrance was swaying in the breeze, making a creaking sound as if it were telling stories from the past. I wasn't interested in such places, but Anna was attracted by the mysterious atmosphere and insisted on going in to have a look. We entered the theater, where a faint musty smell filled the air, mingled with a faint scent of perfume. The lights in the theater were dim, and a few shabby chandeliers emitted a weak light, illuminating the stage in front of them. The set on the stage was a bit old-fashioned, but it was full of an artistic atmosphere. Anna's eyes are instantly drawn to the stage, and her footsteps lead her towards it. I follow behind her, watching her focused expression and feeling an inexplicable warmth in my heart. She stands in front of the stage, gazing at everything on it in silence, as if under a spell. Just then, a ghost actor suddenly appeared on the stage. He was wearing a white robe, which fluttered gently in the breeze, as if it would disappear into the air at any moment. His face was a little pale, but he had a unique charm. His eyes were vacant and deep, as if he could see through people's hearts. When Anna looked at the ghost actor, a strange light flashed in her eyes. The light seemed to contain a trace of curiosity, a trace of surprise, and a trace of emotion that I had never seen before. I noticed her change, but at that time, I didn't think much of it, just thinking that she was captivated by this unique performance. The ghost actor began to perform. His movements were light and graceful, as if he were dancing in the air. His voice was low and full of charm as he told a sad story. Anna was mesmerized, her eyes following the ghost actor's every move as if she had forgotten everything around her. I stood next to her, watching her so engrossed, and couldn't help but feel a little curious. What was it about this ghost actor that had Anna so entranced? But I didn't dwell on it too much, just quietly accompanying her as we enjoyed this rare moment. After the performance, Anna did not come back to her senses for a long time. There was still a trace of unfulfilled longing in her eyes, as if she was still immersed in the sad story. When we left the theater, her pace was a bit slow, as if she was still reminiscing about the performance. On the way home, Anna was silent the whole time. I looked at her thoughtful appearance, and a faint sense of worry welled up in my heart. But I did not pursue her. I believed that she would share her feelings with me at the right time. When we got home, Anna was still in her own world. She was sitting on the sofa, her eyes staring blankly ahead, as if she were thinking about something important. I gently walked over to her, sat down next to her, and took her hand. Her hand was a little cold, so I gently placed it in the palm of my hand to try to give her some warmth. "Anna, what's wrong? Did the performance just now touch you in some way?" I asked softly. Anna turned her head and looked at me, a hint of hesitation flashing in her eyes. But soon, her eyes returned to their usual calm. Nothing, I just thought the performance was very special and it moved me a little, she said with a smile, but there seemed to be a hint of reluctance in that smile. I looked at her, a little puzzled, but I didn't pursue the matter. I believed that she would open up to me at the right time. Since then, Anna's interest in the Phantom Theater seemed to grow stronger and stronger, and our lives began to change subtly because of this mysterious theater. After that first encounter at the Phantom Theater, Anna was like someone under a mysterious spell, quietly changing. At first, I just noticed that she began to frequently look at herself in the mirror, with a little more scrutiny and expectation in her eyes. She would spend more time than ever before taking care of her long chestnut hair, combing it over and over again to make the strands shimmer with a more dazzling luster in the sunlight. She would also carefully select all kinds of hair accessories, sometimes a delicate little flower, sometimes a shiny ribbon, to cleverly dress up her hair, as if she were preparing for an important upcoming date. Not only that, she has also become very particular about her appearance. In the past, her style was simple and comfortable, but now she is keen to buy sexy lace dresses and fitted evening gowns. Whenever she puts on these new clothes and stands in front of the mirror, her curvy figure is accentuated even more beautifully. She gently turns her body, admiring her appearance from every angle, with an imperceptible smile on her face. Anna began to frequently go to the Phantom Theater alone. At first, she would tell me that she just couldn't get enough of the performances there and wanted to go again to experience the unique atmosphere. Although I was a little suspicious, I didn't interfere too much. After all, everyone has their own interests. But as she went to the theater more and more often, her behavior became more and more mysterious. Once, I came home from work early and wanted to surprise her, but found the house empty. I called her, and she sounded a little panicked, stammering that she had something to do outside and would be back soon. A feeling of unease welled up in me, and I decided to go to the Phantom Theater and have a look. When I arrived at the theater, I saw Anna standing in front of the theater, talking to the ghost actor. Her face was beaming with a smile I had never seen before, and her eyes were full of admiration and fascination. The ghost actor bowed his head slightly, as if whispering something, while Anna listened attentively, nodding from time to time. I hid in the corner, my heart filled with mixed emotions, a sense of betrayal rising up within me. From then on, Anna came home later and later, and every time she came back, she always looked a little dazed, as if she was still immersed in the world of the theater. Occasionally, a faint perfume would waft from her, a scent that was similar to the one that filled the theater, but more intense. I tried to communicate with her, asking her what had happened to her at the theater, but she always gave me various excuses, either saying that the performance was so exciting that she had forgotten the time, or that she had gotten too involved in exchanging views with other audience members. One night, Anna came home very late. I sat on the sofa in the living room, waiting quietly for her. When she opened the door and saw me, a flash of surprise crossed her face, but she quickly regained her composure. She put on her slippers, walked over to me, sat down on the sofa, but didn't snuggle up in my arms as usual. "Anna, what's wrong with you lately? Why do you always go to that theater and come back so late?" I finally couldn't hold back any longer and asked. She was silent for a while, her eyes a little distracted. "I'm really just interested in the performances there, and the time goes by quickly when I'm interacting with like-minded people. But what's going on with you and that ghost actor? I saw you talking to him in front of the theater." I looked straight at her, trying to find the answer in her eyes. Anna's body trembled slightly, and a flash of panic crossed her eyes, but she quickly calmed down. "We just had a simple chat about the performance. Don't think too much about it." Her tone was calm, but I could feel that she was deliberately hiding something. I looked at her, and my doubts and unease grew stronger. I knew that she must be hiding something from me. From then on, I began to secretly observe her every move. I discovered that she often got up quietly in the middle of the night, sat by the window, and looked out at the night sky, her eyes full of confusion and conflict. Sometimes she would murmur to herself, and although I couldn't hear what she was saying, I could feel her inner struggle. As time passed, Anna's changes became more and more obvious. Her mood became more and more erratic. Sometimes she would suddenly burst out laughing, and sometimes she would inexplicably burst into tears. Her attitude towards me also became increasingly indifferent, no longer as gentle and considerate as before. Our communication became less and less, as if there was an invisible wall separating us. I tried to repair the situation. I took her to places we had been before, to reminisce about our happy past. I bought her gifts she liked, hoping to see her smile again. But it was all to no avail. She remained in her own world, oblivious to my efforts. One day, I found a note on her dressing table. The note was written in illegible words, seemingly some kind of emotional confession. I carefully read it and found that it mentioned the name of the ghost actor. My heart sank. I knew that Anna's relationship with the ghost actor was far more complicated than I had imagined. I held the note and waited for Anna to come home. The moment she saw the note, her face instantly turned pale. Her eyes were full of fear and guilt. She tried to explain, but didn't know where to begin. "Anna, you must tell me, what exactly is your relationship with him?" I asked, holding back my anger. She was silent for a long time and finally said, I don't know how to say it. I just feel that he understands me. He is different from you." Her voice trembled a little, as if she was afraid of my reaction. I looked at her, my heart filled with pain and anger. I never imagined that our marriage would come to this. I didn't know how to face it, nor how to salvage our relationship. And I had no idea where Anna's relationship with the ghost actor would lead. Our lives had become increasingly chaotic and confused because of this phantom theater. Ever since I found the note with the ghost actor's name on Anna's dressing table and heard her heartbreaking reply, my life has been in a state of endless torment and confusion. Every minute and every second, my mind is constantly pondering what kind of emotional entanglement Anna has with the ghost actor and how I can pull Anna back from this dangerous and illusory relationship. Anna seemed to sense my inner pain and struggle. She became more cautious in my presence, always avoiding eye contact. But even so, she never stopped going to the Phantom Theater. On the contrary, she went even more frequently, as if the theater had an invisible magic that drew her in and held her captive. One evening, the sunset dyed the entire city golden. I stood in front of the window, looking at the endless stream of people outside, and my heart was filled with mixed emotions. At that moment, I saw Anna, dressed up in her best, wearing the lace dress she had worn the first time I saw her talking to the ghost actor. The lace on the hem of the dress swayed gently in the breeze, just like her restless heart. She carefully arranged her hair in the mirror, her eyes betraying a hint of anticipation and nervousness. I silently watched her every move, and a strong urge welled up in my heart to stop her from going out and keep her close to me. But I finally resisted, and I decided to follow her again to see what she was doing in the theater and what secrets she had with the ghost actor. I followed Anna from a distance, keeping a safe distance, for fear of being discovered. Her pace was light and hurried, as if she couldn't wait to get to the theater. When we finally arrived at the ghost theater, I saw her walk unhesitatingly through the door. Her back looked both familiar and strange. I waited outside the theater for a while, making sure she had completely entered before quietly entering the theater myself. The theater was filled with a light mist, and the dim lighting made the mist seem to shimmer, creating an eerie and mysterious atmosphere. I walked carefully towards the stage, and with each step, my heart beat faster and faster. When I got close to the stage, I saw Anna sitting on a chair at the edge of the stage, intently watching the ghost actor standing in the center of the stage. The ghost actor was still wearing the long white robe, and in the dim light, his figure looked even more ethereal and elusive. He slightly opened his arms and muttered something, as if telling an ancient and mysterious story. Anna's face was filled with a look of ecstasy, her eyes full of admiration and love, as if the ghost actor was her entire world. From time to time, she nodded gently in response to the ghost actor's narration, with a faint smile on her face. Seeing the scene, my heart felt as if it had been stabbed by countless sharp blades, and jealousy and anger welled up in my heart like a raging tide. Just then, the ghost actor suddenly stopped talking and slowly walked towards Anna, extending the transparent hand and gently stroking her cheek. Anna did not try to hide in the slightest, but instead closed her eyes slightly, her face showing a look of ecstasy. My body instantly froze, my mind went blank, and the pain and anger in my heart made me almost lose my mind. I could no longer bear it, and I rushed out of my hiding place, shouting, "Anna, what are you doing?" My voice echoed through the empty theater, sounding particularly abrupt and loud. Anna and the ghost actor were both startled by my sudden appearance. They both turned their heads to look at me. Anna's face instantly lost its color, and her eyes were filled with fear and panic. The ghost actor, on the other hand, frowned slightly, and a hint of displeasure could be seen in his eyes. "Why are you here?" Anna's voice trembled, and her body slightly shrank back as if she was afraid of my approach. "I'd like to ask you the same question. What are you doing here? What is your relationship with him?" I looked at Anna angrily and asked her loudly. Anna opened her mouth, trying to say something, but she couldn't. Her eyes were full of guilt and helplessness, her hands tightly grasping the hem of her shirt, and her body trembling slightly. At this moment, the ghost actor took a step forward. His voice was low and calm. "You shouldn't be here. This is her own choice." Her choice? She was my wife. How could she make such a choice? I looked at the ghost actor in anger and yelled. The ghost actor didn't say anything else. He just looked at me quietly, his eyes revealing a hint of pity. Anna finally couldn't hold back her tears, which kept falling from her cheeks and dripping onto her lace dress. I can't help myself. I really like him. He understands me. He can give me things you can't," Anna said chokingly, her voice full of pain and struggle. Hearing Anna's words, my heart felt like it had been hit hard, and I felt utterly desperate and helpless. I never imagined that our once so beautiful relationship would become so fragile and vulnerable. At that moment, I suddenly realized that there was an unbridgeable gap between Anna and me. And it all started with this phantom theater and the ghost actor. I didn't know how to fix it or where our future would lead. But I knew I couldn't give up easily. I had to find a way to get Anna back and get our lives back on track. However, things were not as simple as I had imagined. After this conflict, Anna's attitude towards me became even more indifferent, and she even began to deliberately avoid me. I, on the other hand, was plunged into deep pain and self-blame, constantly reflecting on my shortcomings in this marriage. I knew that if I wanted to win Anna's heart back, I still had a long way to go, and this road was destined to be full of hardships and challenges. After that heated argument at the Ghost Theater, the atmosphere at home became extremely oppressive, as if the air had been frozen. Anna became increasingly cold towards me, always deliberately keeping her distance from me, her eyes full of evasion and detachment. I, on the other hand, was immersed in pain and self-blame all day long, my heart filled with endless confusion and unwillingness. At night, I sat alone on the sofa in the living room. There was complete silence, except for the ticking of the wall clock, which seemed to be mercilessly urging the passage of time. I looked up at the ceiling, my thoughts racing as I recalled the past with Anna. Those beautiful memories now pierced my heart like a sharp knife. Finally, I decided not to avoid it anymore. I wanted to have a final showdown with Anna and ask her what she really thought, even if the result would make me even more miserable. I didn't want to live like this any longer. When Anna walked out of the room, I saw a flash of surprise in her eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. She was wearing a loose pajama top, her hair casually draped over her shoulders. Her face was haggard, as if she too had been exhausted by the relationship. "Anna, let's sit down and talk." I tried to keep my tone calm, but a hint of nervousness could not be hidden in my voice. Anna hesitated for a moment, but eventually slowly walked to the sofa and sat opposite me. She kept her head down, her hands folded in her lap, and said nothing. "Can you tell me, just how far did things go between you and the ghost actor?" I looked her straight in the eye, trying to find the answer in her eyes. Anna was silent for a long time, as if she was thinking about how to answer my question. After a while, she finally looked up, her eyes full of pain and struggle. I don't know how to say it. Her voice was a little hoarse. I never thought it would turn out like this. I just feel that when I'm with him, I can feel an unprecedented understanding and empathy. Understanding and empathy? What about our relationship over the years? I couldn't help raising my voice. Anger and grievance welled up in my heart once again. Can't I understand you? I've done so much for you, isn't that enough? You don't understand. Anna suddenly stood up excitedly, her eyes glistening with tears. You're always busy at work, and you rarely have time for me. When I'm home alone, the loneliness and isolation are something you can never experience. I was stunned. I never thought she would say such things. As far as I could remember, I had always worked hard to give her a better life, but I had ignored her inner feelings. But that's no reason to betray me, I said slowly, with a hint of helplessness in my tone. Why didn't you tell me how you felt? Why did you choose to be with a ghost actor? I tried to talk to you, but every time you just listened perfunctorily for a few words and then went back to your work. Anna's tears welled up in her eyes, but he's different. He listens to me carefully and understands every thought and feeling I have. Although he is a ghost, he gives me more warmth and care than your living husband. Hearing her words, my heart felt as if it had been hit by a sledgehammer, and a sharp pain spread through me. I never imagined that I would be such an incompetent husband in her eyes. So what are you going to do now? I asked, holding back the pain in my heart. Are you going to divorce me and stay with that ghost actor? Anna fell silent again, her eyes filled with confusion and conflict. She slowly sat down, covering her face with her hands and sobbing softly. I really don't know what to do. Her voice was full of despair. I don't want to lose you, but I can't let go of him. Watching her in such pain, my heart was full of conflict. On the one hand, I was furious at her betrayal. On the other hand, I loved her deeply and couldn't bear to see her in such pain. Anna, can we start over? I gently walked up to her, knelt down, and took her hand. I know I've ignored your feelings in the past, but I'll change. I'm willing to do anything for you as long as you come back to me. Anna looked up at me, her eyes flickering with hesitation. Her hand trembled slightly in mine as she made a difficult decision. But my feelings for him are not something I can just let go of, Anna said with a choked voice. He is not just a ghost actor to me, but an indispensable part of my life. Then let's face this problem together. I will work with you to find a way to let him go for good, I said firmly. As long as we still love each other, there is no difficulty that we cannot overcome. Anna didn't say anything, just looked at me silently, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know if she would accept my offer or where our future would lead. But I knew I couldn't give up on this relationship so easily, and I had to fight for our future. In the days that followed, our lives didn't immediately return to normal. Anna stopped going to the theater, but it seemed that she was still thinking about the ghost actor. I, too, was trying hard to change myself and to win her heart again. I started to work less and came home early every day to cook, walk, and chat with her. I tried to show her my care and love, and to bring back the sweetness and happiness we once had. However, things did not go as smoothly as I had hoped. Although Anna's attitude towards me had eased up a bit, there seemed to be an insurmountable barrier in her heart. Whenever I mentioned the ghost actor, a look of pain and struggle would appear in her eyes. I know that I still have a long way to go before I can win Anna's heart back completely. But I won't give up easily. I believe that as long as we love each other, we will be able to overcome all difficulties and regain our happiness. And that phantom theater and that ghost actor will eventually become a part of our past, buried by time. Days passed in this delicate stalemate between Anna and me. I always tried to repair our relationship, but it seemed that Anna's heart was still deeply occupied by that ghost actor. Although on the surface our lives had returned to some semblance of calm, an invisible undercurrent was surging, and an unknown crisis was quietly approaching. Anna began to experience some strange symptoms. At first, it was just occasional headaches and fatigue. I thought it was because she had been in a bad mood recently and hadn't been getting enough rest, so I prepared all kinds of nourishing food for her and told her to rest more. But as time went on, these symptoms not only did not get better, they got worse. Her face became increasingly pale, and her once rosy cheeks were now ashen, like a flower about to wither. Her body also grew thinner and thinner, and the pajamas that had once fit her now looked loose and empty on her, which broke my heart. What's more, she started having nightmares frequently. Every night, she would always let out painful moans and screams in her sleep. I woke up again and again from my sleep, seeing her face covered in cold sweat and her body shaking nonstop. I held her tightly, trying to give her comfort and a sense of security, but she was like someone caught in an inescapable nightmare, unable to wake up. Once, she suddenly sat up in her sleep, her eyes vacant and terrified, and kept repeating, "Don't leave me, don't." I called her name softly, trying to wake her up, but she didn't respond to my voice, as if I didn't exist. After a while, she suddenly snapped back to reality, looked at me with tears in her eyes, then threw herself into my arms and burst into tears. I became increasingly worried about Anna's physical condition and took her to the hospital for a comprehensive examination. However, the doctor told me that all the test results were normal and no organic lesions were found. This made me even more confused and uneasy. If there is nothing wrong with her body, where did these symptoms come from? Just when I was at my wit's end, Anna revealed something that made my hair stand on end. She told me that ever since she met the ghostly actor, she had often felt like her body was controlled by a mysterious force. Sometimes, she would find herself walking towards the theater, even though she had no intention of going. Sometimes, she would feel a cold hand stroking her body in her sleep, but when she woke up, she could see nothing. I feel like I've been cursed by him, unable to escape his control. Anna's voice was full of fear and despair. "I'm so scared. I don't know what to do." Hearing Anna's words, a chill ran through me. I began to realize that things were far more complicated than I had imagined, and that there seemed to be a mysterious and powerful force behind the ghost actor. In order to find a solution, I began to ask around about the ghost theater and the legends surrounding the ghost. I interviewed many elderly people and consulted a large number of ancient books, and finally found some clues in an old book. It turned out that this Phantom Theater was once a very famous performance venue, but after a fire, all the actors and staff in the theater were killed. It is said that the spirits of these dead people, full of resentment and unwillingness, have been trapped in the theater and cannot be reincarnated. And the ghost actor is likely to be one of the most resentful. The book also mentioned that people who have had close contact with these ghosts will be eroded by their negative energy, which will have a serious impact on their body and mind. If this effect is not removed in time, they may eventually be completely controlled by the ghosts, losing their own consciousness and lives. After reading this, my determination to save Anna was even stronger. I knew that I could no longer sit back and do nothing. I had to take action. I decided to go to the ghost theater again to meet the ghost actor in person and see if I could find a way to remove the mysterious power from Anna. When I entered the theater, the atmosphere was even more eerie than before. The dim lights swayed in the mist, as if they would go out at any moment. A faint mist filled the stage, and a figure could be vaguely seen floating in it. "Come out, I know you're here," I shouted, fighting back my fear. After a while, the ghostly actor slowly walked out of the mist. His eyes were cold and fierce, looking at me as if he were examining an intruder. "What are you doing here?" His voice was low and hoarse, as if it came from another world. "I want you to let Anna go." "She is innocent," I said firmly, looking at him without fear. "You can't hurt her anymore with this mysterious power." The ghost actor sneered. "She is with me of her own free will, and the feelings between us are beyond your comprehension. But you will kill her if you continue like this. Can you really bear to watch her die in pain?" I said excitedly, "If you really love her, you should let her live." The ghost actor was silent, and a flicker of hesitation flashed in his eyes. After a while, he said slowly, "It is not impossible for me to let her go, but you must promise me one condition." "What is it?" Just tell me. I'll agree to anything if it can save Anna, I said anxiously. I want you to help me fulfill a wish so that I can be reincarnated, the ghost actor said, and if you help me fulfill this wish, I will lift my control over her. Without hesitation, I immediately agreed to his condition. But I had no idea what dangers and challenges lay behind this condition. But for Anna's sake, I was willing to take a chance. After leaving the theater, I began to look for ways to help the ghost actor fulfill his wish. I knew it would be a difficult journey, but I had no turning back. And Anna's fate would also depend on whether I could successfully complete this task. In this world full of mystery and danger, what kind of trials will I face, and where will our future lead? After returning from the ghost theater, my life was completely taken up with finding help for the ghost actor to fulfill his wish. Every day, I traveled to every corner of the city, visiting people who knew something about the supernatural, not missing any possible clues. Anna's condition, however, got worse and worse during this busy search. She spent almost the whole day lying in bed, too weak to even speak. Her once bright eyes were now bloodshot and dull, as if the light of life was slowly fading from her. Her lips were chapped, pale, and without a hint of blood, and her breathing had become weak and rapid. Watching her like this, my heart felt like it was being stabbed by countless needles, and anxiety and self-blame overwhelmed me. In a brief moment of lucidity, Anna grabbed my clothes with her bony hands, her eyes full of fear and confusion. I feel like I can't hold on much longer. His strength is getting stronger and stronger, and it's like he's going to devour me. Her voice was so faint that I could barely hear it, but it hit my heart like a hammer. I held back my tears, gripped her hand, and tried to sound firm and resolute. Don't worry, I'll find a way. You have to hang on, we'll get through this. But despite what I said, I was filled with worry and uncertainty. As I learned more about the Phantom Theater and the ghost, I realized that this task was far more difficult than I had imagined. From some ancient records and the mouths of mysterious people, I learned that in order to reincarnate a ghost, you need to find an object that was closely related to him in his former life and has strong spiritual power. This object can then be used as a medium, and a specific ritual can be performed to successfully reincarnate the ghost. However, I had no idea what this object was or where it was. I searched every place in the city that might be related to the supernatural: ancient temples, abandoned mansions, mysterious basements. Each place was full of unknown dangers and a strange atmosphere. In those dark corners, I could often feel a pair of eyes watching me in the dark, and strange sounds came from time to time, as if countless ghosts were whispering. But for Anna's sake, I did not flinch. One day, I found a clue in an ancient scroll, which mentioned a forgotten shrine in a barren mountain on the edge of the city. It was said that some powerful spirits had been sealed there, and perhaps there were objects that could help the ghost actors to be reincarnated. Although this clue was very vague, and the journey to the shrine in the barren mountain was full of danger, I did not hesitate for a moment and decided to go immediately. Before setting off, I returned home and looked at Anna lying in bed, my heart full of reluctance and worry. I sat down gently beside her bed, stroked her hair, and told her that I was going to find a way to save her. Anna opened her eyes slightly, her eyes full of tears. She raised her hand with difficulty, trying to grab my hand, but it fell weakly. You must be careful. Don't risk your life for me. Her voice was intermittent and full of concern. I forced back the grief in my heart and smiled reassuringly. Don't worry, I'll come back safely, and then we can live happily ever after. However, as I turned to leave, I heard Anna softly crying behind me. The sound of her crying was like a sharp blade, piercing straight into my heart. I knew that she was filled with fear and anxiety inside, afraid that I would never return, and that she would not be able to wait until the day she was rescued. On the way to the deserted mountain shrine, I encountered all kinds of strange things. The originally clear sky suddenly became overcast, the wind howled, and the raindrops pelted down on my body, causing me pain. The trees on both sides of the road swayed wildly in the wind, making a crunching sound, as if they would fall at any time. From time to time, I could see dark shadows darting through the trees, accompanied by faint cries and laughter, which was creepy. When I finally arrived at the forgotten shrine, the sight in front of me took my breath away. The shrine building was in a state of disrepair, with moss and cracks covering the walls, and the roof tiles were also in tatters. The shrine gate was tightly shut, and a strong stench of decay filled the doorway. I carefully pushed open the door and entered the shrine. It was eerie inside, with dim lighting and only a few worn-out lanterns emitting a weak glow. I looked around the shrine and finally found an old box in a dusty corner. As I opened the box, a blinding light instantly illuminated the entire room, and I could feel a powerful spiritual energy emanating from the box. Just as I was filled with joy, thinking that I had found an item that could help the ghost actor reincarnate, the image of Anna's suffering suddenly flashed through my mind. I began to hesitate. Could this item really help the ghost actor fulfill his wish and thereby lift its control over Anna? What if this was a trap, or what if this item would bring even more dire consequences? I was in a deep dilemma. On the one hand, Anna's life was at stake, and I had to find a way to save her as soon as possible. On the other hand, the uncertainty of the object made me hesitate to act. If I made the wrong choice, I might not only fail to save Anna, but also put her in a more dangerous situation. I felt immense pain and confusion in the face of this difficult choice. I sat on the ground of the shrine, looking at the box in my hands, and repeatedly weighed the pros and cons in my heart. Time passed by minute, and every second felt like a year. I knew that I had to make a decision as soon as possible, otherwise there would really be no hope for Anna. But how was this decision to be made? And how would this object change our fate? Everything was full of unknowns and challenges. In the forgotten shrine, I held the box with powerful spiritual energy in my hands, and my internal struggle was like turbulent waves that were difficult to calm. Every second that passed seemed to mercilessly urge me to make a decision, but this decision concerned Anna's life and death, and I really didn't dare to be rash. Just as I was weighing up the pros and cons in near despair, the dim light in the shrine suddenly flickered violently. The originally weak light instantly became on and off, as if an invisible force was manipulating everything. Immediately afterwards, a cold and bone-chilling wind whistled up from all corners of the shrine, picking up the dust and dead leaves on the ground and spinning them wildly in midair. I stood up alertly and stared intently at the surrounding movements. Just then, a familiar figure gradually appeared in the midst of the chaotic light and shadow. It was the ghost actor. His figure was still ethereal and vague, and the white robe was flapping in the wind, but his eyes no longer looked as cold and fierce as before. Instead, there was a hint of complexity in them, as if they contained pain, helplessness, and an imperceptible trace of tenderness. Why are you here?" I asked loudly, fighting back my fear and surprise. The ghostly actor floated slowly towards me, his voice low and trembling. "I sensed the powerful spiritual energy fluctuations here and knew that you had found the item that could help me reincarnate." His gaze fell on the box in my hands, and a flash of longing appeared in his eyes, but it was quickly replaced by a deep sadness. I subconsciously held the box to my chest and looked at him warily. "Don't even think about touching the box. First tell me, can this thing really reincarnate you and lift the control over Anna?" The ghostly actor was silent for a moment, his eyes slightly closed as if he were remembering something painful from the past. When he opened his eyes again, they were already filled with tears. I can't let her suffer for me anymore." His voice was a little choked up. In fact, from the beginning I knew that my love was a kind of torture for her. I was too selfish, only thinking about my own emotions and ignoring her life and safety. I froze, completely taken aback by his words. In my mind, he had always been the hateful ghost who stole my love, but at this moment, his expression and words made me feel his true feelings for Anna. "What do you mean?" I asked, frowning in confusion. "It is true that this object may help me reincarnate, but I cannot use it," the ghostly actor said slowly, "because the ritual of using this object requires the life force of a living person as the price. I can't let Anna sacrifice herself for me. I can't do it." Hearing his words, my heart first trembled, and then a complex emotion welled up in my heart. On the one hand, I was skeptical of his words. After all, He was once the culprit who destroyed my relationship with Anna. On the other hand, I vaguely felt that his expression and tone at the moment did not seem to be lying. "What makes you think I should believe you?" I said coldly. "How do you explain what you did to Anna?" The ghost actor's face showed signs of pain. "I admit, at first I was selfish. I wandered alone in this ghost theater for too long. When I saw Anna, I was attracted to her warmth and kindness. I longed for her company and her love, so I recklessly approached her. But as time passed, I watched her gradually lose the radiance of life because of me, and watched her struggle in pain. My heart felt as if it were being cut by countless knives." His voice gradually trailed off. "I can't go on selfishly like this anymore. I can't let her die because of me." After saying this, he slowly extended his hand, and that transparent hand was trembling slightly. "Give me the box, and I will seal it up so that it will no longer endanger anyone. I will leave Anna and no longer appear in her life." I hesitated, and the box in my hand felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. If what he said was true, then this decision might truly save Anna, but if he was deceiving me, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, when I saw the sincere pain and determination in his eyes, the scales in my heart began to tip. I thought of Anna's frail appearance and of her love and dependence on me, and I decided to take a chance. I slowly handed over the box. The moment the ghost actor took the box, his body trembled slightly. He looked at me deeply and said, "Thank you. Please take good care of her." After that, his figure began to become increasingly blurry, and the light that enveloped him gradually dissipated. As he left, the strong wind in the shrine gradually subsided, and the light returned to normal. I stood there, dumbfounded, looking in the direction he had disappeared, my heart filled with mixed emotions. I didn't know if this was the right decision, but I hoped that it would really help Anna recover and get our lives back on track. When I returned home, Anna was still lying in bed. Her breathing was much more stable than before, and her face had a faint hint of blood color. Seeing her like this, a glimmer of hope welled up in my heart. "Anna, Anna," I called out her name softly. Anna slowly opened her eyes. When she saw me, a flash of surprise crossed her eyes. You're back. Are you okay?" I held her hand tightly, and tears could not be held back. "I'm fine. It's all over. You'll be fine." Anna looked at me, her eyes full of confusion, but she did not pursue the matter. In the following days, Anna's health gradually returned to normal. Her eyes once again became bright, and a smile returned to her face. And everything about the Phantom Theater and the ghost actor gradually became a dusty memory in our hearts. However, every now and then, when it's late at night and quiet, I still occasionally think about that moment of unexpected reversal and the complex look in the ghost actor's eyes as he left. Our lives, after all, have finally returned to the right track after this thrilling crisis. But this experience has also made Anna and I cherish each other more and understand the true meaning of love even more. After that thrilling confrontation with the ghostly actor, the atmosphere at home gradually freed itself from the previous oppression and tension, and a trace of long-lost warmth began to fill the air. Anna's health improved day by day, and her once pale cheeks gradually regained their rosy hue, and her eyes, like dark pools, once again sparkled with vitality, as if all the previous suffering had been a nightmare. As Anna's health improved, our interactions became more frequent. However, our initial conversations were always cautious, as if we were afraid of touching upon the pain of the past. I would prepare a thoughtful breakfast for her in the morning, and it filled me with joy to watch her eat bite by bite. And Anna would also make me a cup of hot tea after I was busy for the whole day, quietly sitting next to me and chatting with me about the trivial things in life. One evening, the sunset's afterglow shone through the window and fell on the living room floor, creating patches of golden light. Anna and I sat on the sofa, looking out at the beautiful view and feeling a sense of peace well up in our hearts. You know, at the lowest point in my life, I really thought I would never be able to return to normal, Anna suddenly said softly, her eyes betraying a hint of fear. I gently took her hand and comforted her. "It's all in the past. Now that you've recovered, our future will only get better." Anna nodded, and after a moment of silence, she said, "I'm sorry for all the pain and suffering I caused you through my selfishness and impulsiveness. I really don't know how to make it up to you." I looked at her and said seriously, "Anna, let's not talk about the past. We have all done things poorly, but the important thing is that we are still together now, and we are both willing to change for each other and cherish each other." A touch of emotion flashed in Anna's eyes. She leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "Thank you for never giving up on me." From then on, we began to manage our lives more attentively. I reduced my work-related social engagements and tried to spend more time with Anna. We went for walks in the park, holding hands and admiring the beauty of nature. We went shopping at the supermarket and argued over the selection of fresh vegetables. We also watched movies at home together, hugging each other and sharing our emotions when we saw touching scenes. One time, we were walking by the lake in the park. The lake surface was sparkling, and the breeze gently blew Anna's long hair. She was wearing a light blue dress, and in the setting sun, she looked like a beautiful fairy. I looked at her, and a strong feeling of love welled up in my heart. "Anna, do you remember where we first went on a date?" I suddenly asked. Anna smiled and nodded. "Of course I remember. It was that seaside cafe. Back then, we sat by the window, looked out at the sea, and talked for a long time." "Yes, back then we were full of hope for the future," I said with emotion. "Although we have been through so many twists and turns, I believe that our future will be even better." Anna looked at me with love in her eyes. I believe so too. As time passed, our feelings for each other grew deeper. We began to replan our future together, dreaming of traveling together and fulfilling those dreams that had been put on hold. One day, I decided to surprise Anna. I carefully decorated our room, filling it with her favorite flowers and preparing a special gift. When Anna walked into the room, she was stunned by the sight before her. "What is this?" she asked in amazement. I walked up to her and said, "Anna, I love you. After all we've been through, I'm more certain than ever that you're the most important person in my life. I hope we can stay happy together forever and never be apart." Then I took out a ring and got down on one knee. "Will you marry me and be my bride again?" Anna's eyes were filled with tears of excitement, and she nodded repeatedly, "I will." I put the ring on for her and then hugged her tightly. At that moment, we both felt an immense sense of happiness and contentment. In the days that followed, we began preparing for our wedding. Although we were busy, our hearts were filled with joy. We selected the wedding dress together and planned the details of the wedding together. On the day of the wedding, the sun was shining brightly, and the church was filled with a warm and romantic atmosphere. When Anna, dressed in a white wedding dress, slowly walked towards me, I could almost see our future life of happiness. We promised each other in front of our family and friends that no matter what difficulties we encountered in the future, we would overcome them together. Our married life is plain, but full of happiness. We have a cute puppy together, which we named Lucky, hoping that it will bring more good luck to our lives. We will take Lucky to the park to play together, and our hearts will be filled with joy as we watch it run happily on the grass. Every night, Anna and I lie in bed and reminisce about the things we have been through. We marvel at the vagaries of fate and cherish the happiness we have now. The story of the haunted theater and its ghostly actors has become part of our lives, teaching us to cherish and be tolerant and strengthening our love. Our lives are like a melodious song. Although we have experienced some twists and turns, we have ultimately returned to peace and beauty. Anna and I will also walk hand in hand through every day in the future, creating more happy memories together.